2024. And my name is Andy Cohen, president of the company. As is our tradition, I'll talk for about 10 minutes, and then we open it up to questions, which is always the better part of the call. And we'll jump right in. I always, before I do this, I watch last year's call to make sure I don't repeat myself. And this year, I'm going to repeat myself. The K1s for our tax credit property were later than usual for us. It's not like we had, not how we like to do business. And it's a hardship for some of our investors who that's the only, these are the only K1s they get. I guess we had our own, what's euphemistically called supply chain issues, which is a euphemism, and it's not how we want to do business. Since the pandemic, I don't think it's a secret, we've been struggling with our back office accounting. We've made a number of major and minor adjustments and changes and continue to do so. We're just not quite there yet, and we're moving forward. Underlying it all probably is that staffing costs to run a company, like the management side of our company, and I'm only talking about the property management side. I'm not even addressing your investments right now. But the staffing costs have gone up much faster than our management fees. And so Rock Properties, which in a good year sort of runs even, just barely breaking even, it has been in the red a little bit as we put people in and make changes. One of the things we did after consulting with some other owners is we hired a domestic U.S. firm that uses Filipino labor for bookkeeping. And we did it last spring, got off to a great start. We had a team of about 3 people in the Philippines and one supervisor here from the States. And they didn't work just for us. They had a couple of our owners they worked for. And it was really, we took us 2 to 3 months to get them up to speed, to train them. And you think we're an $11 million company. We have 55 bank accounts, 13 partnerships. It's a fairly complex undertaking. We don't have inventory, so we missed that part. But it is, the accounting is, I always thought real estate accounting is simple. It just repeats every month, the same thing. The rents come in, you pay your bills. That's true when you have 1 or 2 entities. But now that we have 13 entities, 15 entities actually, there is a learning curve for anybody. And so we got them up to speed. It was great. And at the new year this year, they lost 2 of our key employees, turnover, and we've had to sort of start over again with them. So now we have to revisit that setup. So that's one issue. Our accounting, we have 2 teams. They were bought. We have 2 different accountants. They were both bought by larger firms in the last year, as you know. Some of you know. Was that the issue? No. We had a new manager on the team. Was that the issue? No. Our key accountant who was doing the tax return had a death in the family, was out for a week. Was that the issue? No. But all together, it just sort of led up to slippage in our in getting things done. And we're going to have to kind of regroup, have a kickoff meeting again next fall, and make sure that we're set up with everybody on the team ready to go. It's just it's distracting for me, and it's my number 1 issue right now, and I know it's been distracting for some other people. Now this is to my favorite part of the meeting, is where I get to read about maybe twice a year. We get a letter from a tenant unsolicited, and I get to read them at these calls. So here's the one we got last time. This came in right around New Year's. It's a tenant who's been with us since before we bought the building in 2001. It's in our Montclair property. It's been with us forever. I'm writing to commend the exceptional and outstanding work that the super Margie Vasquez has been doing for years. Also, Jose Oliveira is very responsible and a skillful maintenance worker. I find them to be very professional and trustworthy employees of yours. We can always rely on them through their many property emergencies or when they have small concerns regarding on-site issues. Words are just not enough because they are so considerate and pleasant during their tasks. And here's a really unusual part. She starts praising 2 contractors we use, captive contractors we have, who come out to the properties and do work on the properties. So she says, she even spells their names right. The repair and construction workers, Fabian Varela and Alex Varela, are so efficient and skilled. They just completed fixing the ceiling in my apartment. It's remarkable how they did their job. They are respectful, don't waste time, and are mindful of cleaning up after assignment. What I really appreciate is that they are prompt in showing up. She touches on at least, 2 of our key issues: respectfulness. We respect our our tenants, which not all landlords do, but we definitely respect them. And we expect them in return to respect the work we do. It's got to be mutual. And appreciate their prompt in showing up. Efficiency is one of our core values. And the properties, while we're struggling here at the office, the properties are running great, better than ever. I think not I think, for 2023, collections were up over 9% over 2022. And some of that was a little bit of a bump not a little bit, a bump post-COVID. And some rents were people were catching up who had gotten behind during COVID. But the properties are keep functioning beautifully, thank goodness. Let's get to the properties now. I think on everybody's mind is debt. If you read the headlines, you see there's a bit of a debt, not a bit, a major debt crisis going on. There's a $1 trillion, $1 trillion in debt. It needs to be refinanced in the next 9 to 12 months. It's not our kind of debt. This is stuff 75, 100 million plus. This is major institutional. And as a buddy in mine, Nashville, put it, banks have puckered up. So all this money is coming to insurance companies, don't want to refinance it. Foreign banks aren't in the market. Major commercial banks aren't in the market. You can't securitize mortgages. So what's happening? All these major real estate properties are doing what's called extend and pretend, or pretend and extend. You keep it quiet, you deal with your servicer, and you drag things out another 6 months, year for the existing loan, go into default, technical default, keep it going, and the banks aren't foreclosing. They're trying to work through it under guidance from the feds and get through it so that they can refinance eventually. Does any of this apply to us? Not really, because we have one mortgage coming due in November. We're not talking about hundreds of millions. We're talking about 2.3 million is what we're going to refinance, which is going to be about 400,000 lower than the mortgage that's on it now, because we've been paying it down a little bit. Phil Oppenheimer told us that amortization is your friend, and you go to last few years, he went to refinance a mortgage, and the brokers were all offering interest-only loans, and they actually looked a little strange that I was trying to. That was not their first. I would have to go to Plan B. I said I want to do amortization from year one, and that would always be Plan B. So we have a $2.3 million loan, which, if you know what debt service coverage ratio is, that's about, right now it's about, where are my numbers on that? I think it's about, it's like 1.7. Oh, here it is. It's 1.7, a current mortgage with debt service, which means, after you have your income, you pay all your operating expenses, the net income is left over, or the operating income, we call it NOI, net operating income in real estate, is left over. And how does that compare to the debt service? So you always want the operating income to be greater than the debt service, obviously. And in our case, it's 1.7 times greater right now. Banks want at least 1.2, 1.25, so we're way over that. So it's an easy, actually, even in today's market, it's an easy mortgage to refinance. So, but we're at 3.75% right now. Our monthly payments are $12,800, $154,000 a year. We're going up to, right now, we have 5 offers from banks like Apple, Amalgamated, Lakeland, Northfield, small regional banks, local banks, who are still in business, and they're quoting around, after the last bump, rates went up in the last 3 weeks. They're quoting 6.75% right now, maybe up to 7% with no points. So where does that put us? We've dropped the principal to 2.3 million. Lock it in, let's say at 6.75%, where the quotes are now. Our payments go up about $25,000 a year in debt service. In the last couple of years, traditionally we've been distributing 250,000 times a year. So it's about 10% of our distributions will get eaten up by the increased debt service. The question, and maybe people on this call have an opinion, love to hear it. It's right now we're at 6.75%. They're quoting 6.75%, but we have a $24,000 prepayment penalty, and that'll go away in November. We can lock it in now, pay the lose part of the 3.75% more amortization we're paying now, a little lower payments, a few $1,000s, but lock it in. Or think to ourselves, well, maybe mortgages aren't going to go up, rates are not going to go up that higher. The Fed, a month ago was talking about 2 cuts this year. They've backpedaled from that, but let's say they go up to from 6.75%, where banks are quoting now to 7%. That's $4,000 a year additional cost for us in debt service. Basically, at 7%, it's $5,000 extra a year over what we're currently paying. So it's a wash with the prepayment penalty. So my gut is just to wait, enjoy the 3.75% payments right now. Hope we can lock in at 6.75% come November. If not, is it going to be much higher than 7%? Let's see. We'll hear what people have to say. Maybe we can crowdsource a solution there. So just like, and I'll finish up with this, just like banks are sort of extending they're not foreclosing so quickly. If they realize it's expensive, it's painful. If they can get around, they will. We have sort of changed our attitude about evictions, and as part of the reason maybe some of the collections are higher. I haven't run the numbers yet, but used to, in the old days, as soon as somebody got behind, we take them to court, and we still do. There's not many businesses where if you're 30 days late in payments, you're in court. And it's the court that we go to, the quickest remedy for landlords is possession. We're only trying to get the apartment back because they're not paying the rent. Collecting the debt, that's a whole separate channel that we go through. But, and once in a while we do collect some outstanding debt. But evictions are expensive for us, but forget that part for a minute. They're devastating to the renter. A book came out, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago by Matthew Desmond called Evicted, and it became a bit of a sensation in policymakers circles and housing circles. And he talked about the devastation and the setback that an eviction is on a family, and how they really almost never recover, what it does to the kids. And a lot of it, he sort of places the blame on the landlord, which is not fair. I mean, really, I mean, there's only one person to blame, and to me, and not everybody agrees on this call, I'm sure, but me, it's not the state problem, it's not New York City's problem, it's a federal government issue. If housing is so expensive, there are ways to mitigate it for people. We have Section 8 in a lot of our properties, which the government pays a portion of people's rent, that helps them, stay in the apartments. But and in the appendix, he says the federal government needs to do something, but he finally gets around to it. That's only one of about 8 issues. So, dragging out evictions, giving tenants legal representation in court, all kinds of ways to really turn the landlord to put a tax on the landlord to keep tenants who can't afford it in there longer. And since the pandemic, we couldn't evict. Now it takes us about 3 months. It used to be about 2 months. It's going up a little bit. They've added extra layers in before we can do it. But having said all that, we've had a little mind shift. Why don't some of the better tenants who just get into a one-time financial issue, let's try and work with them. And that's because there are programs now, because of this book really, that are eviction prevention programs. State of New Jersey has them, and there is some federal money for it. So we are working with a local group, and we work with our tenants who are good tenants who have gotten behind in their rents, and we marry them to a social service agency, and we'll get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000 before the eviction. So the tenant gets to stay in the apartment, and we don't have the turnover costs, and we get our back rent immediately. So I think it's working out both ways, rather than just to look at everybody who's behind in the rent as a criminal and somebody we'd never want to rent to again. We're working with them and keeping them in the apartment. I think it's a win-win. And that's all I've talked too long. Look at that. So I want to turn it over. Everybody's on mute, I think, because we heard some noise. But if you please feel free to unmute yourself, or we can unmute you. We have Wendy on the call here from the office. She can unmute you, and love to hear if anybody has any questions. Could just raise your hand. Anybody?
Hey, Andy, this is Leslie. How you doing? Good
Oh,
morning.
good. Hi, Leslie. How are you? All right,
Hey,
fellow owner.
excellent. I'm doing
That's what I'm
good.
talking about. Yeah.
Thank you. One, I just want to acknowledge you and Andy, everybody here, for your humanity. You're like maybe one of the few, if only. I'd like to consider us and my company as
Yes.
well, in terms of considering. I saw that book a couple of years back and I didn't read it, but it's so true. I mean, I can't imagine a more traumatizing experience for a family. Me having grown up in an apartment house in Jersey City, I knew a bunch of people that had a lot of problems. But
I just, Leslie, let's note that Leslie is a fellow landlord. He owns tons of buildings, does a wonderful job. We have a love fest. I totally admire him. And we worked for him for years. We managed some of his properties, and
yeah,
great,
I
great owner.
know. And we loved everything that you guys did. I know we kind of had to move on and to new places, but again, it's really great to hear you and to hear your conversation here. But and I would agree regarding trying to do everything that we could, as you said, for good tenants. And we've done that too. We want to look at who the names are. Are they trying? Are they really people that hopefully we can resuscitate in some way to keep them in the apartments? But to go back to it for a minute with the interest rate adjustment, have you looked into like interest only? Like we have a couple of loans. I think one's with Lakeland, and I think we have another one with Affinity Credit Union. And maybe if you got like just an interest only for the first couple of years, although I don't know if that would make sense. I'm just trying
Yeah,
to think.
I did. Yeah.
Did you
Did
look
I cut
in?
you off? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's that's it. That's my
Okay.
genius thought. Nothing special.
Listen, for our low debt service coverage, would interest only be a problem? No, but you just made Phil Oppenheimer throw up a little bit in the back of his throat. So we hate to see that happen. He has conditioned us at Rock Properties just to avoid it. Always more amortize some of the mortgage,
Right.
and just belts and
Well, it's to
suspenders
get
kind of conservatism. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's cool. But it's to get in essence to get the rate, the rate down right now. While hopefully we're going to see if things work out, and everybody says there's going to be a rate cut at some point. But in the interim, whether you get 1, 2, or 3 years, it would could at least cut the pain relative to the adjustment. But that's
You know what? It's smart. It makes sense. It's just not in
right.
our DNA. I mean,
Okay,
we're just a little more conservative than that, and we'd like to
that's
lock
fine.
things in for 5 years. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think there'd be too many people on the call who would
Gotcha.
have a problem with it. Yeah,
All right,
but
no problem.
another
Right.
option, a way to do things, and for us, it wouldn't be bad. I don't think it would.
Yeah,
It's just not in our DNA. Yeah,
gotcha. All
thanks for
right,
pointing it out. Yeah,
that's my contribution.
yeah, no, appreciate it. Smart idea. Anybody else? We have about 8 people on. Doug, all right, let's see. I can unmute you. You have to unmute yourself, I think. I don't think I can unmute you. There you go. Oh,
Am I
hi, Doug.
unmuted now?
No, you're there.
Hi.
We can hear you. Good. All right.
I just want to say dealing with you guys is great. I have no complaints. It's a tough
Now's the
world
time.
out there.
Now's the
Yeah,
time.
it's a tough world. In my
You feel it
business,
too.
everything is bad.
Really?
Yeah, the
Doug,
insurance business, particularly for guys like you, it's the worst.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
just been horrendous.
Doug has done a fabulous job for us as our insurance broker. And I can say that even a couple of years ago, the brokers would send out a operating memo or a offering memo, or call them a setup, a little, package on a building for sale. And the insurance, they tell you the projected income expenses. The insurance costs were $450 a unit. And now we're paying over $1,000. And I choke on it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, Doug, you could talk about. One is that I think a lot of brokers, Doug, am I wrong? They let you underinsure. They have no problem with it, and they get a competitive price. And if you really read the fine print, you're underinsured for if God forbid a building burns down, you wouldn't have enough to rebuild it. But they do it, and they do it year after year. I know some owners have dropped umbrellas, but we've actually increased our construction costs, replacement costs on the policies as construction costs have gone up. I mean, I don't go to Home Depot every day, but plywood's $50 a sheet now. I mean, when did that happen? So construction costs are going up. We've increased our insurance, and now to get full, Chubb style insurance on our properties, it's over $1,000 a unit. I mean, probably some of the setups are still saying $450 a unit, right? I mean, so you're seeing that's a reality, right, Doug?
Yeah, it's horrible. I don't know. In New York is worse than New Jersey, if it's possible. But New
Thanks.
York is horrendous.
Thanks
To
to
the
what is that?
labor law.
Labor laws, yeah, workers' comp
Yeah.
and labor laws, yeah. Everybody
So
sues now.
it's
You're going to get
just
sued in New York.
So there's no pleasant conversations about it. But, putting that aside, just dealing with you since I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about the real estate stuff. Your office staff is the nicest people in the
Oh,
world.
thank you.
You apologize for things you don't have to apologize for.
Well,
And
we're not used to it. Yeah.
it's been, I think I wrote back, I don't care about the K1.
I know you have a lot of K1s, right? I mean, we're not.
Well, I'm
we're
on
just
an
one
extension
of
every
many.
year anyway.
Yeah, you're one of many. We have investors who this is it. But I appreciate it. We're as far as getting our K1s out early, we're 28-2 over the years, so we got not a bad record, but not where we want to be.
So this Filipino thing is working out?
Well, it was. I mean, we had, on a team of 3, we had a couple of people who were really dedicated, just, strong and trained and quick learners, and then they left. They jumped somewhere else. So I can't advocate it right now, or we're exploring some other options.
It's
Yeah.
hard to do it in-house.
It's pricing. I mean, even the Filipino labor is $22 an hour. I had a Filipino assistant about 5 years ago. I was paying her $7 an hour, $6 an hour. And she was pretty good, but again, she kind of ghosted us. She just wasn't stable week after week. So yeah, so we're paying $22 an hour now for them, and the office staff is, almost double that. Yeah, local. So yeah. So it's just trying to, figure out a way to make it work. Yeah. And listen, unemployment's still below 4%, I think, right? I mean, Carl probably knows better than I do what the unemployment is, but it's low. Yeah.
Well, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're trying to figure that out. The property management firm always worked on slim margins, but yeah. So we'll see. We'll get there. And I had a thought. Yeah, okay. That's it. Any other questions or more feedback like Doug's? I love that. Thank you, Doug. I mean, yeah, 2 positive responses here.
Well, who knows what's going to happen with these banks? They must be in desperate shape.
Some of them.
My son-in-law works for a place called Loan Corps, and they make large, 100 million, 200 million. They're funded by some, I guess, sovereign wealth funds. And they said they're doing no business. That
What I hear.
it's just they're waiting for the rates to drop. And so I don't know what the banks are doing. New York Community Bank, I was reading some articles about them.
They got $1 billion in reinvestment at very favorable terms to the investor, but they did recapitalize. Yeah, I don't know what that's going to do. I think it's not going to be enough. And most of their problem is their portfolio is rentals in New York, which got crushed by the new law in 2019, where landlords can't raise rents when somebody moves out of a rent controlled apartment. When Phil and Carl and I bought our first building in 1995, I was living in a rent controlled apartment in New York and buying a rent controlled building and we were buying a rent controlled building in Jersey City. I had no problem with rent control, but New York, it's got to be balanced, and New York went way too far. So the buildings have really, their value has really been hurting. So,
well, they showed they had like a $400 million loan on this one property in Brooklyn near Coney Island was built, I don't know, 60, 70 years ago, and it's like deteriorating. And they need hundreds of millions of dollars to do the renovation to hopefully save the buildings. And, what do you do when you're in that spot?
yeah, it's like what, EBITDA? Is that what it is? Nobody figures CapEx. They figure the value of the buildings. So yeah, and as I said in our last letter, these buildings age faster than US presidents. They wear out. They need constant reinvestment, constant upgrading. And our goal is to make it look better every month and the month before, not just, staying even is almost going backwards. So yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I think that's great. 27 minutes. That's about our usual. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you for the time.
All right, good. Thanks, Carl. Thanks,
Good luck,
Doug. Thanks, Phil, and
everybody.
everybody else. Ron. All right, good. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay in touch.